iRacing. You wanted the best, you got them for a breast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws.
Hello everyone and welcome to V8 Online's coverage of the third round of the 2018 iRacing V8 Supercars official series. Alongside me tonight is Mr. Zachary Hanlon, and in the director's booth and producing that brand new intro, which hopefully you all loved, it's on debut tonight, is Mr. JK Kennedy. But Zach, I'm sure you'll agree, we both love watching close racing, so tonight we're in for a real treat. 43 laps in a four-door sedan touring car around a circuit where lap times aren't decided by tenths. They're within hundreds and thousands, and with so little corners around this circuit, every single one is so critical to lap time right now.
Yeah, you know, this is a very short track as well, so the margins are going to be very minimal. And with the full throttle nature of this circuit, a lot of people are going to be having to watch out on their laps and make sure that they nail every single millimeter. As just seeing a couple of people turning, getting a little wide as they're coming through the horseshoe section of the track there. But yeah, very important tonight to get a good qualifying result, because it's going to be hard to make your way through the field. But with that draft, it is going to keep the pack very tight together throughout this race.
Yeah, it will, and it's going to be a very interesting race as well, because we're actually expecting not one, but two pit stops. Someone might try the fuel-safe tactic and go for the one stop, but expect a very heavy majority of these drivers to be going for that two-stop hit today, which is not going to be easy with tyres either. Normally tyres do cop a battering around here with lots of right-hand corners, really wearing out the front left tyre, but with a 37-degree track temp, it's going to be even more difficult for these drivers to hold the tyres as well. So we might see not only fuel stops today, but tyres as well.
Yeah, and I think they'll be taking tyres on both of the stops with these V8s. They obviously I think they can do the tyres at the same time, and the fuel usually takes a little longer. So I'd expect that they'd be taking tyres both times, but it will open up the strategy quite significantly. And we might see people trying to go, you know, late on the first stint and early on the second stint, or vice versa. So there'll be a good amount of strategy tonight, but I think that one of the keys to the race will be keeping in the draft of who you want to be with towards the end of the race, and just making sure that you can stay there until the final final portion of the race. And I think that's when we'll see a lot of aggression happening. But you know, with all of these competitors we've been seeing throughout the season, there's no lack of aggression anywhere throughout the race. So we'll see how they go. But if I was playing my cards right and I was racing around here, I'd probably just be trying to keep it in there until the end, and then trying to make more of a push towards the end of the session.
Yeah, that'd be a very good idea. But of course, drivers still in qualifying right now, trying to complete their laps. One driver that is on their second lap is Brenton O'Brien, just about one of the only drivers on their second lap. Of course, with laps being so short, the laps do go by pretty quickly. And just whilst we're here, something we'll have to quickly address, because iRacing is brilliant. No, the cars are not actually that low to the ground. There's a bit of a bug in this latest build, and it's causing the cars to look much slower than they actually should be. So very unique look for the V8 Supercars this round, but no, they're not going for the ultimate low drag performance around here. Although you do want low drag around this circuit, of course, long straights, but also these very tight corners as Brenton makes his way through the final right-hander on the power, currently sitting down in P16. So we'll see if the Adelaide supporter can get across the line and put himself up the order, and with an invalidated lap time, that's not going to help him. So we'll now turn our attention to Jordan Ross, who's on he's on his third lap. So he's still running around the circuit, just trying to get valuable mileage. Of course, this might be a very different track temp to what he's used to, so every lap in these new conditions will matter.
Yeah, and it is a relatively hot track as well, and especially with so many high-speed corners around this track, that's not going to help these guys. You generally prefer cooler temperatures because the cars have a little more grip, and when you're coming through those high-speed corners, especially in these V8 Supercars, they don't particularly like high-speed corners very much. So those hotter conditions are really going to push the limits of what these guys can do on tyres this evening, and that might incorporate a little into the strategy as well as how much these guys are wearing on their tyres.
Yeah, and there's going to be so many factors in this race: strategy, pace, and also the start. And one driver that is actually really putting in a lot of effort for the starts is Luke Harvey. He's come out of the pits 2 or 3 times, and right now just trying to get the optimal launch and fire himself into turn 1 faster than anyone else. And on the front row of the grid, he has a fantastic shot of getting past Forzal Navi. if he gets the start right. But nonetheless, we'll run you through our grid because this is going to be a very exciting 43 laps, and it's going to be kicked off from the front from Forzen Al Nabi taking his first pole of the season with an 11.5, a tenth of a second clear of the TTR driver of Luke Harvey. Kurt Stenberg with a good performance in P number 3, and he's got Wayne Burke alongside him for row number 2. Brian Borg rounds out the top 5 with championship leader Marl McMullen in position number 6. Marco Taliasic, Cooper Webster, Jordan Ross, and Mitch McLeod round out the top 10.
We've got Brett Loxton in P number 11 and Steve Jansen sitting alongside him in P12. Thomas Hins taking out position 13 with Jamie McKnight taking out 14th. Christian Hinton in 15th. Brenton O'Brien in 16th. Corey Preston will be looking to work his way through the field from 17th position. Danny Martin in 18th position. Braden Bateman will take out your 19th spot, and Gary Cooper will take out the top 20 position with Zane Payton, Jason Cossey, Will Dodd, David Kinmond, Jonathan Ben, Job Stewart, Alvaro Rabanal, Ryan Andrews, and David Miller rounding out this 29-car grid this evening.
Yeah, and how good does that look? 29 V8 supercars slowly gridding their way onto the American countryside of the Watkins Glen Cup circuit, a very, very fast circuit, very high average speed, and even quicker corners as well. I think we're going to be in for a real treat here tonight. Of course, there's strategy to play, and there's a lot of passing opportunities here. Turn number 1, it can be done into the butt stop with a great run up the hill, slipstreaming your way down the straight and hard braking commitment. And then also the long right-hander where if you're extremely brave, you can occasionally make something happen. But drivers already looking to try and save a bit of fuel. Not everyone's gridding up immediately. They want to save whatever they possibly can because it's going to be so critical with 2 pit stops today. Even if you don't save a heap in the first stint, if you can save a little bit in the second stint, you will still find time on your opponents. But nonetheless, the rest of the drivers funnel their way onto the grid, and we get ready for the start of 43 laps here at Watkins Glen. The green flag is in the air, and it's going to be lights out, and away we go. And Luke Harvey practicing his starts has got a good start, and he's going to get alongside the driver of Forzen Al Nabi as they funnel their way into the 90-degree hard braking zone and around the outside. Very, very committed for Luke Harvey. He's going to take the race lead as they all funnel their way through the very tricky turn number 1, but now into the even harder uphill section. Weave your way through the countryside, up the hill, blind. The car's getting light and squirrely. You're side by side with opponents, and drivers are contact. Brenton O'Brien's in a lot of trouble. He's going to make contact. Here comes a pile-up potentially. Somehow, the drivers managed to miss him. They're going to continue their way down into the bus stop now. The pack has been split into 2 distinct packs, and it's a big gaggle in the second pack as they're going almost 4 wide in places. Very ugly, but it looks like for the majority, a lot of drivers have got through unscathed. Brenton O'Brien, one of the only ones with damage, but your race leader is going to be Luke Harvey from Forzen Al Nabi, with also the driver of Wayne Burke stealing the podium away, but Kurt Stenberg immediately looking for 3rd.
Yeah, Kurt looking good there. I think Steve Jansen and Brenton O'Brien were the 2 that came together a little bit. Just coming up the hill section there, which is very easy to do early on the race. Just looking at Danny Martin putting a nice move on Christian Hinton back further in the field. But yeah, nice jump from Luke Harvey there. He obviously did practice those starts quite a bit, but I wasn't entirely surprised to see Forzan drop behind so quickly. Forzan is renowned for trying to save fuel and trying to play the alternate strategy. And so he may have wanted to do that from the get-go. He may not have wanted to have started from pole and lead the way. So he will look to do a lot of fuel saving behind Luke and just tuck in there. But as we can see, no one really breaking away in these first couple of laps as the strength of that, the strength of the slipstream is very, very high here. A lot of cars coming into the bus stop, nothing too much. Jamie McKnight actually just coming under a little bit of pressure from Brett Loxton for P number 9, or actually Brett's dropped a couple of places on that lap. So I think Brett might have actually just lost a place to Jamie, who's moving his way through the field. He'll be looking at the back of Mitchell McLeod for the next lap or so. But yeah, relatively clean start to these guys, which is good to see on a tight circuit.
Yeah, absolutely, as they funnel their way through the long right-hander. Now onto the front straight to start lap number 3. And Forza Nabi is sick of looking at the back of the TTR Commodore of Luke Harvey. He's going to dive to the inside, and he's going to get that lead, but he's going to blink a little bit, which isn't going to make life too easy for Harvey to see where he is. And this is getting awkward for Harvey now as he goes up the hill, blind crest, in the slipstream now. We'll see what he can do. But I think the bigger threat here is going to come from the driver of Wayne Burke. Look at the run he's got. He's got a fantastic run. He's got the overspeed, and he is going to try and pull out, potentially might stay in the draft there of Luke Harvey. So they're going to stick it where they are right now. But nonetheless, the driver's really maximizing that run up the hill and down into the bus stop chicane, which is very surprising for me. Only a 4-kilometer win, so it's not too gusty here. It's not too bad for these drivers in terms of slipstream effect, but they're really making it work here.
Yeah, well, it's important to make it work, but what it doesn't so much help you overtake as it does just keep you in check with the car ahead of you. It might only gain you a 10th or 2 or 3 every lap, as Luke Harvey's just running a little wide, coming through the second last corner there. But it just gives you enough to keep you in check with the guys ahead of you. As we can see, Wayne now looking very aggressive behind Luke. He might be looking to get past as well, but just staying in there for the time being. There are still 39 laps left in this race. And yeah, so Wayne, if he could just stay in this slipstream like a lot of the guys behind him will be looking to do as well, he can just attack whenever he feels like he can or he needs to, as he got very sideways coming up the hill there. And he's getting a very nice run, actually, despite that massive moment of oversteer. He's getting a nice run up the hill. So I think these top 5 cars are all looking pretty quickly. Marlon McMullen's made up a spot or 2 in his journey in this race so far, and Brian Borg not falling away. So I think these guys are going to have a pretty good run to the end. We're just having a look now at Mitchell McLeod, who's looking very hot on the heels of Jordan Ross. Jordan taking a slightly defensive line, but Mitchell's going to make a move to the inside. He's got the overlap. He just dives up there. Is there going to be a little bit of contact on the exit? No, Jordan has to run a tiny bit wide there. He's going to have the preferred line into the final corner, and he will maintain that position. Mitch did get a very nice run using the a lot of the grip on the lighter concrete on the final corner. He's going to come into turn 1, fire it down the inside, and if he can pull it up just enough. Oh, but Jordan's going to make a run around the outside again.
Wayne Burke and Luke Harvey are getting all kinds of racy. Wayne Burke had a fantastic run into turn number 1, almost had the overlap as they went side by side up the hill. Couldn't quite do it. Luke Harvey just had enough speed. But how about now? Wayne Burke in the slipstream once more, but won't decide to get too racy right now. But that has allowed Forzen Al Nabi, our pole sitter, lots of pace and performance in sports. Commodore there. He is flying right now out to a 1.3 second lead, and this battling of Luke Harvey and Wayne Burke is not helping. But look at Kurt Stenberg. He's bought his way into this fight now, and this is going to become a 3-horse race for P2, and it could become even worse with McMullen, Borg, Webster, Taliancic. The entire pack is coming with this slipstream train to attack Luke Harvey in position number 2.
Yeah, and Jordan Ross and Mitchell McLeod were continuing to battle very, very intensely there. If they can hold that off, they'll be part of that train too, if they can catch back up to Michael Taliancic there. But yeah, I think with the amount that Forzen's pulling out on Luke now, that might give Wayne a little more of an incentive to get past Luke. Don't think that any of these guys will be trying to save fuel at this point, so Wayne will be looking to put the move on, and he has been getting a very, as he keeps on getting very loose in that particular part there, carrying a lot of speed coming up the midsection of the hill, and that's just killing the run a little bit. He is getting a lot of speed on Luke coming up the hill, but then just kills it on that tiny little bit of the exit there. So just having to keep behind Luke and just keep on looking and showing the nose and seeing if he can force Luke into a mistake. But Luke's a tough customer. He's well accustomed to these V8 supercars, several-time race winner, and I think he might have even picked up a championship back in the day in one of the other series. So he's definitely a very experienced racer and not one to succumb to pressure easily. As Wayne got very loose. He just touched the grass there on entry to the final corner, and Kurt Stenberg's now going to have a nice run down into turn number 1. He's on the inside. He's got a nice amount of overlap, but will we see what we saw before with Jordan Ross and Mitchell McLeod, where Wayne tries to take it around the outside. No, he's going to come back in and try and maybe go for the undercut and come out at the top of the hill with a lot more momentum compared to Stenny. So let's see how he goes here. He did run a little wide into the first corner there. Got a decent run, but he is quite far back. And now he's got Marlon McMullen looking at the back of him too. So very costly mistake there for Wayne Burke. And that'll allow Kurt Stenberg to start pushing up towards Luke Harvey, who's now got a bit of breathing room to try and work back a bit of that gap to Forzan El Nabi.
Wayne Burke through the last corner, deja vu. He just went to space before. That was a huge save. Somehow held it. So fantastic car control from Wayne Burke. But we're going to get a Cut Price Racing replay up on screen because that definitely deserves one. He spent a lot more time with that through that corner with opposite lock than actually turning into the corner. So that's very, very exciting stuff for position number 2. This fight at the moment, Luke Harvey still has that position at the moment, but now with his teammate Kurt Stenberg in position number 3, trying to attack, but they're all losing so much time to the driver of Forzan El Nabi right now. He's pulling away at the rate of almost 4/10 a lap at the moment. So fantastic pace from Forzan as the rest of the field makes their way through turn number 1. And everyone's just getting into the rhythm now, figuring out what kind of pace they've got underneath them, what kind of tyre wear they've got underneath them, and who they are racing. Over the crest now, down the long straight, everyone just starting to spread out just a little bit as we're now working lap number 8. Mitch McLeod has a good run, but he's not quite going to be able to make a move on Jordan Ross. Thinks about it, just puts him under pressure just a little bit. So these two still continuing their scrap for position number 9 at the moment. And Jordan Ross has been a real surprise of the season so far, and even the end of last season, he was really, really beginning to outperform where we would normally expect him to be. And he's now really well and truly cemented himself as a top 10 runner.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we've seen over the last couple of laps, he's been doing a good job to pull back in Michael Talyancic, even with that massive amount of pressure that Mitchell McLeod has been applying the last few laps. And definitely we saw Jordan Ross a little bit further down the field earlier in last season. But yeah, towards the end, he was putting up some really nice fights and getting up there with some of the more notable names in the series. So we'll be keeping an eye on him as the season progresses for sure. I'm sure we'll see a lot more exciting racing out of him. And also putting on a good show to display that he's not going to be pushed around by people like Mitchell McLeod, who's been doing a good job to apply a good amount of pressure to the back of Jordan Ross's car. But everyone keeping fairly within check, you're right, Bo. And Kurt Stenberg has caught back up to pretty much the back of Luke Harvey now, although Wayne Burke is looking very feisty and looking like he wants to get back to where he was as well. But Forzan's in the hot seat. He's got a really nice lead here. It's the perfect amount of lead that you want to have in a race like this. He's just got enough where if he makes a small mistake on a lap, he's not going to have to worry about falling back into the draft or anything like that. So he's got a little bit of a cushion. And if he can keep that pace up and Luke Harvey's not able to keep it, you know, there or thereabouts, he could start winning the race. You know, he's playing the long game right now by working that lead out, and we'll see when he pits if he decides to extend that tank as long as he possibly can, or if he decides to come in and do the same thing, get on some fresh tires and just build out more of a lead. Be good to see, but definitely looking in a strong position. And Wayne Burke having a nice little look at the back of Kurt Stenberg now, just showing the nose and just saying, mate, I'd really like to get past if you wouldn't mind hurrying up. But Kurt's holding station for his teammate there, so I think he's going to be a pretty hard brick wall to move.
One driver that is getting past a lot of brick walls at the moment is the driver of Corey Preston. And he's been making a lot of moves, slowly working his way through the field. Of course, did not have a great qualifying down in P number 17, but currently finds himself now up into position number 12. And on this lap just gone, has got past the driver Brett Loxton. Next target will be Jamie Knight. So Corey Preston, we've seen it a few times, just struggling a little bit in qualifying. But when he's not getting into too much trouble in the races, the race pace is very, very strong in that Falcon. So we'll see if he can continue making his way through the field. But the issue he's going to have here is he using too much of his tyre life early in this race? Of course, you're going to want to potentially split this into almost 15 lap stints or thereabouts. We're currently only starting lap 11, so these tyres still have about a third of their life left. And right now, Corey Preston really pushing, trying to get to the driver in front of him of Jamie McKnight. So we'll have to wait and see if he's using too much of those tyres, as Forza and Alnabi actually getting a little bit of traffic there, but actually managed to get through it very nicely. So no time lost at all there. But Luke Harvey still holds P number 2. Kurt Stenberg still holding position number 3. I don't think he's going to threaten Luke Harvey for position number 2 at all, but he's more of a buffer between Harvey and Wayne Burke, who really does not care for the safety and well-being of his rear tyres right now.
Yeah, it's interesting as well, as Corey Preston's looking very edgy on the back of Jamie McKnight here. He might be firing it down into the penultimate corner here, and he does. Gets through nice and cleanly and makes sure not to use too much of the road on exit and not clipping the grass like Wayne Burke did as well. But just having a look at the times at the moment, Corey Preston's actually pretty much the 3rd fastest car, with the exception of that lap because he had to make an overtake, but he's pretty much the 3rd fastest car on the track at the moment. And Luke Harvey's pace is overall hasn't been super spectacular. I mean, he's matching Forzan now, but I feel that Forzan could be just holding off a little bit. Luke Harvey's fastest lap comparatively to all of those around him is pretty horrific. In fact, his fastest lap is not even as fast as the cars in from 11th place up. He's got the worst fastest lap out of them all, as just seeing a car getting out of the way of Corey Preston and co there. But his pace is not particularly good. Kurt Stenberg's pace throughout this race has looked a lot better, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Kurt was speaking to Luke on voice chat or anything, as Kurt got very loose over that curb there, just didn't quite hit it right. And
here we go,
the first
strategy.
here we go, strategy. So lap number 12, in comes Wayne Burke, and he wants some fresh tires, and he's got the 2nd fastest lap of the race. So if he can come out in a bit of a gap, that is gonna work very well for him. But keep in mind, he may not have the draft, which could have an effect as well, but I think it's really going to depend on where he can fall back into place. And
hold on, this is getting quite messy for position number 10. Corey Preston, Jamie McKnight, and Thomas Hins were almost going to take it 3 wide up the hill. Somehow they get it all sorted. That was going to get very messy. A little bit of body panel rubbing up the hill there. That was not pretty in the slightest. Now Thomas Hins has the run on Jamie McKnight. How brave is he feeling? The answer is not very. But that was getting very dicey to turn number 1. Corey Preston had the 2 behind, fighting for that position number 11, and Corey himself ran wide, which almost made it 3 wide, which is not what you want to be doing heading up the hill. But nonetheless, strategy starting to be played by drivers, and we'll have to wait and see if anyone's willing to respond now to the answer of Wayne Burke. And the answer is that Luke Harvey is going to go around one more time. Kurt Stenberg around, Marl McMullen. No one's interested except for I think that was Brian Borg, and that's an aggressive pit entry.
And
it's
Mitchell
McLeod. It's going to be followed by Mitch McLeod and a few others. That's Brett Loxton, I think, diving in well. So,
and Wayne Burke actually came out not in the best of gaps. He had the driver of who was it? I can't. Alvaro Rabanal. He had him in front, who was a slower car, so he'll be hoping to definitely come out ahead of these guys. I don't think that he would have been held up too much, as he's actually just come through now, so well ahead of those in the pits. And we haven't seen any outlaps yet, so 137.4 on the outlap for Wayne Burke. We'll have to see how that compares to some of the others, but he definitely looked like he had a good amount of pace on that lap. And if I was one of the leading guys, I mean, I know we have another pit stop to go after this cycle, but he's starting to get a little worried about running too deep with the 4th place car making up so much time.
Luke Harvey, and he has to respond to Burke. He's seen the lap times and the pace of Burke, and he's going to dive straight in the pits, and he's not alone. Taliancic and also Cooper Webster and Marlon McMullen, so a lot diving in. But one thing to note that I did actually find interesting about Wayne Burke is his pit stop was 2 seconds faster than anyone else who was currently pitted. So has he underfueled a little bit and is going for the undercut considerably? And perhaps he was trying to find a bit of clean air and undercut to try and get out in clean air, but that hasn't worked. But nonetheless, we'll have to wait and see what Luke Harvey's pit stop time is going to be. This is going to be very crucial for his battle between him and Wayne Burke, and he's still in the pits. So it is going to be Wayne Burke who will take over that position of position effective number 2.
Yeah, big time.
But Kurt Stenberg still out on track. Will he know that Luke Harvey had a slower pit stop and Wayne Burke had a faster pit stop and short fill himself?
Yeah, well, I mean, Wayne, what's the gap from Wayne to Luke? It's about 3.6 seconds at the moment, so...
And Harvey's got traffic too.
Yeah, Harvey does have traffic, although I don't think he'll be held up. Oh, no, he's going to get held up. That's really unfortunate for Luke Harvey there, but Alvaro has not pitted, and he is technically...
Oh!
Or is he a lap down? I think he might actually be a lap down.
He is
so
a lap down.
He should be getting out of the way. Technically in iRacing, you don't have to, but it's always quite courteous to do that. Race leader Forzan El Nabi now in the pits. He's in pit box number 1, and he came in very deep there, almost overshot his pit box, and Kurt Stenberg as well. Now, I have a feeling that Mr. Wayne Burke, I know, he's looking pretty good for this right now. Forzan doesn't have a long run out. He's dropped off the jacks, hasn't gone. There he goes. Okay, but Wayne Burke has definitely made it through there very easily. So that working very nicely for Wayne. But now he's got, what, 4 or 5 laps less fuel than the cars behind him. And he's also got 4 or 5 laps worse off tires. So I think it seems like these guys can go roughly 15, 16 laps on fuel, and that's definitely going to work for Wayne Burke's pit window. If he can go 15 laps, that'd take him to 27, and then it's only another 15 until 43, or 16 till 43. So he should be able to make that work, but he is going to have to probably extend this stop as much as he can, and the other guys might be able to short fill on their second stop. And so he's got to work out as much of a lead now as he can to try and prevent those guys from being able to do what he did to them on that first round of pit stops.
I actually see this a little bit differently for how Wayne Burke could potentially play this. I reckon right now, if he could fuel save a little bit, who cares about the gap to El Nabi, even if El Nabi does get into the slipstream of him a little bit. If Wayne can just save fuel as much as he can, and then try and get 1 lap further into this stint than he did last time, he'll still get the undercut on El Nabi, because he's going to be coming in, what, 3 or 4 laps earlier than El Nabi anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He'll have an undercut, fresher tires. You know, I think this could still work for Wayne Burke a few different ways, but we'll have to wait and see which way he will go, because right now, Forzan El Nabi, you can guarantee he's going to want that race lead back. And everyone has cycled through for their first pit stops now, so the order you are seeing is the effective order. And there are a few winners and losers. A big loser I am actually seeing is Kurt Stenberg, was right behind Luke Harvey, now finds himself behind Mitch McLeod.
Yeah, and he's actually 6 seconds off the lead, and Mitchell McLeod has gained 4 spots, I believe, out of that whole pit stop transaction. And he was another one who had a fairly quick pit stop, nothing lightning like Wayne Burke did, but still one of the faster pit stops. But he obviously came in at the right time. I felt that Kurt probably ran it a little long, just given the time difference on these fresh tires. But the lap times are not staggering. They're definitely not as good as they were in the first round or the first cycle. Forzan El Nabi's just done a 1:12.0.
Oh, McLeod has absolutely thrown it. Send it, package sent, delivered. It's all gone horribly wrong for Mitch McLeod. He came from so far back. That was never going to work in 100 years. And that's allowed Kurt Stenberg to go through. Not sure if we can get a replay if that was on screen or not, Jay, but that was a massive, massive move from Mitch McLeod. Didn't quite work. And all that time he made in the pit stops has now gone all away in one corner.
Yeah, I think he might have just actually pinched a brake there and just locked up slightly, but that was a very costly mistake for him. And that's going to really help Kurt Stenberg, who's got a bit of work to do. Kurt's race pace right now is looking pretty good. He's definitely looking healthier than Brian Borg ahead of him, so wouldn't put past Kurt to be having a look in the next couple of corners. He's making his intentions very clear. He wants to carry as much corner speed through this penultimate corner as he possibly can, and that's going to give him a good run into the final corner, and he wants to get a nice exit out of the final corner and get a nice long run. Brian Burg getting a pretty good exit there, but Kurt using every little inch of road. He's right up there, and he's going to go for the over. No, he's not. He's going to tuck back in. I just noticed, actually.
We've actually had a very, very large crash. Corey Preston.
Well, he's sideways in the pit lane, which is what kind of confused me for a second there. We'll just see
so he went for a very, very large move on Thomas Hins, and the two came together on the exit lap 17 at the final few corners, if we can get a replay up on screen. And Corey just did not quite leave enough room there. Really, really pinched Thomas Hins, and it's fired them so hard into the wall, and big damage to both the number 4 and the 11th car. So those two would well and truly be out of it. And Corey Preston not too happy in the chat with Thomas Hins, but I'm sorry, Corey, I'm gonna have to put that one on you, unfortunately.
Yeah, he definitely could have moved back across the track. You don't need to, you don't really need to defend like that when there's possibility of some overlap. Better just play it safe, and if the guy's going to chuck it down the inside of the next corner, well, you should have been further past him in the first place. But anyway, we'll move on from that. Unfortunate for those guys. It was a pretty crunchy accident, and yeah, they won't be coming out for the rest of the race. Marlon McMullen is having a bit of a... Looks like he's fuel saving a little bit. It sounds like he's not on the throttle as much as some of the other cars are, and his lap times are reflecting that a little bit. Although, yeah, he is one of the slowest cars inside the top 5 right now for sure.
Yeah, very, very dicey battle pack just behind as well, including Brian Borg, Mitch McLeod, and Cooper Webster. Those two are getting very, very racy against one another, and they're fighting nose to tail. Mitch McLeod so close to the back of the Optico Pro Falcon. So these guys well and truly fighting. But another thing we have to watch out for as well is Forza Nabi has chopped the race lead down so much.
Yeah, he's gone quick.
We'll keep our attention with this battle at the moment as Cooper Webster thinks about the inside of Mitch McLeod. Gets a little bit squirrely on the entrance, and that makes Mitch just give him a bit more room than he otherwise would have.
And the same thing happens.
It's a repeat. Round number 2, Cooper Webster dumped, damaged, and that is potentially out because that was a very, very large hit there. You can already see the performance and the the stability of that car is absolutely ruined. That was an exact replica, except somehow Mitch McLeod did not end up like Thomas Hins did.
Yeah, I think the defining difference in that incident there is that Cooper was still he was still kind of exiting the corner as they made contact, whereas Corey and Thomas had already kind of finished the corner, and then Corey decided not to come back across the track. They were still kind of exiting the corner there and just got a little bit tangled up with a little bit of overlap. So that was a little unfortunate. Also to note that while we were looking at that Corey Preston incident before, Kurt Stenberg did get past Brian Borg and is now...
race lead. Sorry to cut across you,
That's
but
okay.
He's going for it. He's thinking about it. He's half backed out of it. He had about 3 different cracks of it, trying to get past Wayne Burke. He thought about it so many times, didn't quite do it, but he has so much more pace at the moment. He is just hounding the back of the number 7 car. This isn't going to be an if. This is going to be a when. You can see Forzan wants this lead. He has no interest in fuel saving down to the inside, and he's going to go so late on the brakes. He's getting a little bit twitchy, which could open the door for Burke, but he slides it in perfectly, makes the apex. And now Forza Nabi resumes as your race leader, but Wayne Burke now has an opportunity to fuel save and also make himself a bit off ground as he gets sideways over the crest once more, Zach.
Yeah, he's just using those tyres probably a little more heavily than Forzan. Forzan's been putting in some relatively impressive times comparatively to everyone else in the last few laps, and that's showing right now. But Wayne not falling back massively right now. He'll use that slipstream to his advantage and try and keep on the back of Elnabi. But that was one of the risks that that Wayne was going to be running with this strategy, is that other cars are going to be able to come back at him in the latter part of this stint, as we've also just gone past the halfway mark in this race as well. So I think we'll be expecting to see cars coming in within the next 5 or the first. I think the first of our guys coming in will probably be in around lap 26 or 27. And maybe some of the guys pitting later will be around the 30 and 31 lap mark, or even the 32. So still a little bit of strategy to play out here, but at the moment it is advantage for Fauzan El Nabi. Wayne Burke is looking very good. He does have a very healthy lead over Luke Harvey, and Marlon McMullen is hounding the back of Luke Harvey, who hasn't been able to keep up the pace as much as I'm sure he would have liked after being in the lead for the first few laps of this race. And Kurt Stenberg's also looking like he's moving back up towards this pack, albeit very slowly. His pace is very good compared to Luke and Marlon as well, so he may be jumping up there in towards the latter part of this race as well.
Yeah, Kurt's doing a very good job. He's managed to break away from Borgie and McLeod, who have not managed to break away from each other. Those two are still well and truly going out. As you can see, Borg does not want to give up the spot, and McLeod is very interested in that position number 6. So he's going to throw it down the inside and say, "Excuse me, sir, may I have that position?" And unfortunately, it's not going to be open and not going to be available at this time. So Borg continues to hold that P number 6, but he's run himself very, very wide. McLeod has a very good run, but is it enough to throw it up the inside of turn number 1? I think it is. So we'll see what McLeod can do. Can he get it stopped this time? It looks a lot better. It's a lot nicer, a little bit squirrely. And he's just about got it done, but Borgie's there. So they're going to go side by side up the hill. Who's going to be brave? It's McLeod on the outside. Not the place you want to be, but he's going to hold it. He's going to keep his foot down, and he is going to take over position number 6.
Yeah, very strong move there. Nice. Yeah, he got very close there. It is very hard with these cars being the lock differential to get them up this hill. It's very, very difficult indeed. But Mitchell McLeod putting... Oh, and Brian's lost it. Oh, jeez, that was close.
Oh, watch out for Talyancic.
Talyancic is going to have a bit of trouble here as well, but I suspect Brian Borg will have a slowdown, and he'll probably have to try and clear that before he rounds this corner, not to lose more time. And he is braking as he's coming out of the exit of that corner, so he does still have to clear that slowdown. And someone we were talking about earlier in the race, Jordan Ross, is going to benefit from that as well. He'll move up to position number 8 and continue hunting down Mitchell McLeod. But yeah, that was a big moment there for Brian Borg. I think he just locked up a bit of a break there and almost went careering right into the back of Mitchell McLeod, who had just overtaken him.
Yeah, so very, very racy in the mid-pack, and that has not gone well for Brian Borg, but he does have very good pace in that car at the moment, so we'll have to wait and see if he can make his way back to the field. Of course, Jordan Ross and Talyancic both benefited from that, but still the opportunity for him to make some more time. Fauzan El Nabi has finally managed to break a bit of a gap on Wayne Burke. Burke still has a tiny bit of a slipstream, but not enough for him to be fuel saving anymore. So Fauzan looking good for the race win. Luke Harvey is looking okay for position number 3, but Marlon McMullen well and truly closing up a lot more than he was now. These guys, well, for Wayne Burke now on his 13th lap of the stint, so those tyres getting very, very old, so he'll be thinking about a pit stop the next 2 to 3 laps potentially. Luke Harvey can go a little bit longer, as Marlon McMullen can as well. The two drivers you'll expect to see go the longest in this stint should be Fauzan El Nabi and Kurt Stenberg, but we'll have to wait and see as McMullen gets a bit on the grass there and loses all opportunity to get a move done at turn number 1 as Harvey runs a little bit wide, so McMullen has to wait for another lap, but still looking very, very ominous.
Yeah, and Luke's been doing a good job to keep that position for the longer part of this race. He's had quite a few people trying to take it off him, and I have no doubt that Marlon will probably try and use a bit of strategy here as well to try and possibly get an undercut on Luke. So I have a feeling that a couple of cars, maybe not this lap, but the next lap around, will start coming into the pits. That's when we're kind of looking at having 16 or so laps to go, which is the longest that we've really seen people going on these tires. But yeah, Marlon doing a good job to keep applying pressure, and a lot of guys in this race have started to spread out a little bit. The top 10 is still very close. We've got Gary Cooper and Jason Cossey, who are still having a bit of draft fest down in P12 and 13. But yeah, for the most part, this race is spread out a lot more than I really expected it to. But with that double pit strategy, it does open up a lot more options for people. And it's been people have been using it to their advantage very, very well.
Oh, one battle I'm watching for is position number 16, and Job Stewart is under a lot of pressure from David Miller. Those two are getting very, very close into the bus stop. So the CMR racing car, which is still a relatively new team, still making their name in the community, doing a very good job in P number 16, but how much longer can he hold on to it? Because David Miller is putting on an absolute charge at the moment. Is he going to go for a move up the inside? Of course he is. He's going to go for a move, but he doesn't quite get it in the end. Backs out at the last second, so still a very, very tight battle. And this is allowing the drivers of David Kim and Zane Parton and also Jonathan Benz to close in on this action as well. So these guys are racing very, very hard. So it doesn't matter if you're going for the podium, the win or anything. It's going to be, hey, I'm going to try and move at turn number 1. The 17 car pulls along the 27, but who's going to be braking later? It's going to be the 27 around the outside, sweeps through. And that's going to hurt the exit there of the 27 car. So they're going to go side by side up the hill. This is very, very brave stuff from these guys. Mirror to mirror stuff over the crest. The car gets light, very little control, and somehow they manage to make it all work. But because they would have had to have lift going side by side slightly, this gives a very good run to David Kim, and he's not going to be able to do anything with it because there's a roadblock in front of him of Miller and Stewart, who's going to be later into the bus stop. It's so late, and somehow it's going to be the driver of David Miller getting through, and Job Stewart loses that spot and already looks under pressure from Kinmond. This is a really, really close fight, Zach.
Yeah, they were doing a really nice job to keep it nice and clean there. And Job Stewart just got a little wiggle on the grass there, and Kinman's going to poke the nose a little bit as well. Kinman did a really nice job as well through that bus stop of not just absolutely smacking it into the back of Job Stewart as well. So definitely kudos there. And Kinman looks like he's diving for the pit line, actually. So he's one of the first people to make a stop. We do also...
Marlon McMullen. He's down. He's now into position number 3. So we'll get a replay up on screen for you there. Sorry we missed that, but it was a great run over the crest there for McMullen. Had so much more overspeed on Luke Harvey, side by side, and so much braver.
And Luke Harvey's actually just come back through, pardon me, Bo. He's just come through in the penultimate corner. So Luke Harvey not wanting to give that spot up at all. And is one of these guys going to dive for the pits? Yes, Marlon McMullen is going to come into the pits and try the undercut. So he's going to make his final stop. Kurt Stenberg as well coming into the pits, as well as Wayne Burke, our second place driver. And I believe that is Mitchell McLeod in the pit lane, and Brian Borg as well. We've also got Jamie McKnight coming in. So lap 29 is the time for everyone to come in for a pit party. And Wayne Burke will be the first to come out of here, presumably, unless he's got to add a little bit more fuel than these other guys. Although with such a long run to the finish, wouldn't be surprising if they're all within a couple of seconds of each other. And Wayne Burke indeed is the first out, but McMullen got a fantastic stop there. He didn't have to fuel much at all, and he's now back on Wayne Burke. And Kurt Stenberg getting out ahead of the other cars in there too. So will Luke Harvey pit this time round? I think that he has to, if he wants to have any chance of defending that position, as he has been doing so well. But, well, we'll find out on this corner here. He's just coming into the final corner, and our race leader, Forzan El Nabi, is in the pits. And so Luke Harvey is coming in the pits too. So it's all go time now for everybody. And this is where we will really see the final race to the finish, and who is going to be where. Michael Taliancic and Jordan Ross also coming into the pit lane. So I think that's pretty much everyone in our top 10 has made a pit stop now. So we'll see where they come out. Wayne Burke is rounding the penultimate corner right now, coming into the final corner and looking to get a nice flyer down the main straight. But Forzan El Nabi still in the pits, and he's dropped off the jacks. He's gone. So here comes Wayne Burke. He's not close enough, though. Forzan is going to make it out in front with a healthy margin.
Harvey's very slow. McMullen's gone through. Burke's gone through. But Harvey's lost a lot.
Well, he did run that extra lap, and on the older tyres, that was always something that was possible to happen. Luke now has fresh tyres, but with only 1 lap's advantage on tyres, there's not a whole lot he probably can do with that, but it is an advantage nonetheless. And I'm sure that he'll use every ounce of his ability to get back up to Marlon McMullen there, as we just see Christian Hinton nicely pulling over for all the other drivers who are coming through on the lead lap. And Michael Taliancic has done a good job as well. He's, I think, picked up a spot on Mitchell McLeod during that pit stop as well.
Yep, still a few drivers yet to take their pit stop, but Taliancic has indeed got through on the driver from Mitch McLeod. So Taliancic doing a good job at the moment. He'll be in effective position number 6 when all the pit stops manage to cycle through. But nonetheless, it's going to be Forzen Al Nabi, who does have the race lead from Wayne Burke and McMullen. And McMullen did look to have better pace than Burke towards the end of that stint. But now they're on equal tyres and equal grounds in terms of fuel, more or less. So what can McMullen do now that he has equal, you know, is in an equal situation with Wayne Burke? It's going to have to be max attack if he's going to have any chance of getting the position. But he also has to watch out from the threat behind, because Luke Harvey already looks like he's taking tenths of a second out of McMullen. So Harvey, you know, he's only got 1 lap fresher tyres, like you said, but he's going to throw it across the hill and really attacking right now. So there is no doubt about it. He is not taking this easy. Luke Harvey, like you said, 1 lap fresher tyres, but he's going to use every ounce of his talent to make it work.
Yeah, and actually the 2 fastest drivers on the track right now are Kurt Stenberg and Mitchell McLeod. So those guys have found some pace in the last couple of laps, and with Kurt having his teammate ahead of him, I don't know if he'll have to hold station or if they'll have a bit of a fight, but one of those guys has to take it to Marlon McMullen. And Luke Harvey just hasn't looked like he's had the pace a lot of this race. As I said, his fastest lap is not even as fast as most of the laps that these guys in the top 5 are doing right now. So I suspect that he may have to fall behind Kurt in the dying laps of this race, and they'll unleash Kurt to try and hunt down Marlon McMullen. But Forzan El Nabi is the man with the pace at the moment. He's currently faster than everyone as Kurt Stenberg comes across the line and puts in the fastest lap the last time round. So yeah, all the pace at the front is pretty good, but
Harvey was so close to the wall. He is throwing this TTR Commodore harder than I've ever seen anyone ever attack this circuit. That was millimeter stuff to the wall. Somehow didn't hit it, but Harvey is flying, well, he's trying to fly. He's pushing as hard as he can, but Kurt Stenberg in the slipstream of his teammate right now is the driver with pace, currently doing 12.2s. Harvey doing 12.3s, McMullen doing 12.4s. They're all slowly closing in on each other, and there is going to be 11 laps to go at the line. And I am interested to see what's going to happen with the TCR cars here, because does Stenberg have overall pace on Harvey, or is this just the draft? Will they try and save tyres with Harvey attacking now, let Stenberg save tyres a little bit, and then release Stenberg at the end on fresher tyres than Harvey, and try and attack McMullen? There is so much that could potentially happen. The only driver that looks safe in their position right now is probably Forzen El Nabi.
yeah, he's got a pretty good lead, 4.5 seconds, which is definitely not the largest lead that we've seen this season, but a very healthy one regardless. And Wayne's got a fairly good buffer back to Marlon as well, so I don't think those guys are going to have to worry too much. Luke Harvey's, yeah, his not his last lap, but the lap previously was the fastest lap that he's done this race, so he's starting to pick up the pace a little bit. But yeah, Kurt Stenberg behind him, his teammate, is making the car work a little better, and could have a little bit to do with the slipstream, but Kurt has generally looked stronger throughout the most of this race. So yeah, I reckon this is the battle that is going to kind of come down towards the final stage of this race. We do still have 10 laps left, and there are a couple of other cars on track that are very close to each other. I'm just having a look back at David Kinmond as well. He's back. I believe he actually just overtook David Miller, who had a bit of a problem on that last lap. So David
Miller's
Kinmond
actually just come out of the pit lane.
Oh,
So
has he? Right.
Miller has incredibly fresh tyres, so look for him to come flying through the field. It was actually very close. Kinman was very lucky to get his nose across in front of Miller, but Miller is going to be a man on a charge in his next few laps. So currently sitting in P17, and you know, we'll see how high he could potentially get up, because Ryan Andrews, who is on relatively old tyres compared to Miller, you know, he's only a couple of seconds up the road if he does manage to get past Kinman. So that's going to be a very interesting thing to watch. But I think right now we'll keep our attention on position number 3, because we're beginning to get to traffic. And like you said earlier in this broadcast, traffic is not, you know, required to move out of the way. There, you know, it's good etiquette to, But if they're in a battle, they're entitled to keep fighting as hard as they want and not let these drivers through. McMullen is being caught considerably by Harvey. Harvey's being caught considerably by Stenberg. We've got 9 laps on the clock. This is going to be good. As McMullen a little bit wide through that penultimate corner. And that's just a few more tenths in the favor of Harvey. And Harvey is well and truly in the slipstream range now. I think Harvey is the threat right now. Stenberg a little bit too far back. I think Harvey is the person who's going to be taking away position number 3 anytime soon from McMullen, who has a lot of traffic, which actually could save him. Up the hill, we'll have a slipstream as Harvey gets all kinds of sideways on the exit. McMullen will be safe on this lap with a slipstream, but after this lap, there is no helping McMullen because Harvey will be coming.
Yeah, well, McMullen's last 2 laps have been pretty shocking. He's dropped nearly half a second on both of those laps to both Luke Harvey and Kurt Stenberg. So, but now he's got the slipstream with the CMR car ahead of him, but it's not going to help in this next section of corners. And you can already see he's had to go quite shallow on the entry to that corner there. And the CMR car is not really wanting to give up much room as he comes off the exit there. And now Luke Harvey, this is going to be a really defining moment for Luke Harvey, but good. Oh, doesn't look like he's going to get out of the way. So Job Stewart getting in the mix with the boys up the front. His pace isn't terrible, but it's just not good enough to be really racing with these guys at the moment. So Luke will get a nice exit out of there. And Job, I think if I was you, mate, I'd probably just pull over just for a second. And he does. Good on you, mate. Very nicely done. So he gets out of the way of those guys and they can continue battling. And luckily for Luke Harvey, he hasn't really lost out much there at all. He's still within 4/10 of Marlon McMullen, which is still a good margin to when you're chasing the car. So nicely done by Job Stewart there to get out of the way of those guys paddling for position number 3.
Yeah, and there's the other CMR Commodore getting out of the way as well. So these guys are all free to race. Well, they are for a couple of seconds because Wayne Burke is just in front and he's got a fair bit of traffic in front of him. He's got the battling pair of Danny Martin and Alvaro Rabanal. So those two are fighting quite hard. So they're not going to want to give up too much time to Wayne Burke, who is just in front. So Burke's going to have to really, really fight his way past that battle because those two are going for position. They don't care where Wayne Burke is. They're going for their own positions. So this is going to be very tough for Wayne Burke to find a way through. But it's going to be even harder when McMullen, Harvey, and Stenberg all try and get through at the same time, as they're actually very well going to get out of the way. So very, very nicely done from those two. Not easy when you're fighting for position to try and get out of the way of a faster car, but they've done fantastic there. So massive respect there. But the real challenge is about to come because McMullen has Harvey right on his bumper. This is going to be a very exciting 7 laps to go. Harvey in the slipstream now. There is no doubt about it. It's no longer trying to catch him. It's the other part of the saying. It's trying to pass, and McMullen uses every millimeter of road on the exit. Probably needs a new paint job on the mirror. Harvey in the slipstream, not going to be able to get anything done into the bus stop this time around. Has a look though, fills the mirrors, puts him under pressure. Now McMullen knows that he is under pressure, and he is going to be going as fast as he possibly can to try and get through this next 2 cars who have lapped traffic in front of him. The dirty air through this long right-hander, just hurting the understeer of that PSS car. And this is going to be McMullen, a defining moment once again.
Pretty tight here. I reckon if I know there aren't the headlights in this V8 Supercar, the flash, but I reckon he's spamming that button either way in hope. And the driver of Danny Martin there doing a good job to get out of the way of this battle. Now Alvaro Rabanal just has to, he's going to have to stick it on the outside because here comes Luke Harvey and Mullen. Luke has a nice little run here, but he's not going to be able to do much with it. He's got cars on his outside, cars looking up his inside, and he's just going to have to keep on pushing. He has been looking very good through this section of the circuit in the last couple of laps, and he is within a cigarette paper's width of the back of Marlon McMullen there. He's got a very nice run, very smooth. And can he make a move now into the bus stop? He's right there. He pulls out. He shows the nose. He's going to fire it down the inside. McMullen's just left off the gas a little bit. I think they might have touched slightly as they came in there. But Luke Harvey makes a good, smooth pass, a strong pass on Marlon McMullen. And now Kurt Stenberg, who's just been held up by that traffic a little bit through that final section there. He's going to look to hound the back of Marlon McMullen and try and let Luke get a bit of an advantage over Marlon. But Luke's already checked out comparatively to how close he was to Marlon McMullen before. So he's got a nice little advantage already. And now Kurt Stenberg will look to clamp back on to Marlon McMullen.
Yeah, I think that's just Marlon McMullen trying to get his breath back, because that was so late on the brakes from both of those guys. I did not think they were both going to make it through the bus stop chicanes side by side, and somehow they made it through. So Luke Harvey promoted to position number 3. He has to hold on for 5 more laps, but that shouldn't be too difficult, because it looks like there is a lot of pace in the hybrid racing simulations Commodore. The real challenge for McMullen is going to be from behind. Kurt Stenberg no longer has traffic in front of him to slow him down. It is clear road in front of him, and it's under half a second, so there will be a little bit of slipstream benefit, not as much as he would perhaps like, but still, Stenberg will be getting a little bit of benefit. The thing that will be hurting him is Luke Harvey is also giving the slipstream to McMullen. So could TTR do something with slowing Luke Harvey down to try and push McMullen back into Stenberg, or is Stenberg going to have to be left to fight his own fight and still make his way through? But the interesting thing to note here, Zach, is it sounds like McMullen is still fuel saving a little bit. He did have a relatively long, he had a shorter pit stop than the 3 guys he is fighting with right now, but he's still fuel saving at this point, and with 4 laps to go, it depends on how short he is, but this could be a critical situation here for McMullen.
Yeah, and Kurt's actually gained quite a bit on him on that lap as well. So as the guys behind them are just having a little bit of a biffo coming down the main straight there. But yeah, Marlon does seem to be doing a tiny bit of fuel saving. It's not the first time we've seen him doing that this race. He was doing some fuel saving earlier in the race as well. So yeah, don't really understand why that would be the case. He kind of came in the same lap as most of his other competitors. And yeah, his pit stop was roughly the same time as all of them. So I'm not really sure why he's trying to save fuel or why he would have less fuel in comparison. But Kurt Stenberg's now really right on the back of him. And I don't think that Luke Harvey's going to have to worry about slowing down. And, you know, given the risk that's involved in letting the other car get back up into your slipstream, I don't think that TTR are really going to want to risk it. And Luke's probably not going to risk it. Not going to want to risk it himself, having the final spot there on the podium. But Kurt's a very established racer, and he's looking more than able to clamp onto the back of Marlon McMullen here and try and put a move on soon, as he just ran a little wide out of the final corner there. You might notice the next time we come around, there's actually a lighter piece of concrete on the inside of that corner. That's where majority of the grip is on that corner. So you will see a lot of drivers trying to keep it in the groove of that light piece of cement, as that's where all the grip is. And similarly on turn number 2 there and turn number 3 on the hill here, those lighter pieces of concrete actually have more grip than the other parts of the track. So Kurt just doing a good job to keep in there, but he's not looking as close as he has on laps previously. Maybe that the front tires are just starting to let go a little, and he's only got 2 laps now to complete a pass on Marlon McMullen here, but he's definitely within good range to work himself back up.
Talyancic has just somehow managed to squeeze his way past the driver of Mitch McLeod, and that was very, very dicey. Those two were going side by side up the hill, and Talyancic had the outside line, had traffic in front of him as well, and it was so close between the two of them. Somehow didn't make contact in between traffic, around the outside, into the bus stop. Talyancic with a fantastic move on Mitch McLeod there. So Mitch is going to be knocked back down to position number 7. And this is going to be a very interesting fight, because McLeod does still have very, very good pace in his car. So we'll have to wait and see if he can do anything in regards to finding that time back. Still, Stenberg and McMullen, they're still around the same gap at the moment. So we'll have to wait and see as Talyancic dives to the inside of the traffic and gets to move out of the way. But he's compromised his exits so much. So McLeod has a brilliant run, but I think he's got his run too early. He's going to get to the back bumper of Talyancic too early, and he's going to have to lift off and actually not be able to use too much of the run, but he's still very, very quick over the top of the hill. In the draft now, lots of horsepower in the talking car. Is he going to do a similar move? Is he going to throw it up inside of the bus stop? He definitely thought about it, but with still 1.5 laps to go, there's more opportunities to come for Mitch McLeod. We'll have to wait and see if he can do anything about it. But we go back to this battle for position number 3, 4, and 5. Kurt Stenberg doing whatever he can to close in on Marlon McMullen, but it's not quite there right now. He has to dig deeper. He has to find something a lot extra, because right now he is going to catch. Oh, he's not going to catch. And sorry, we have to go back to this battle between McLeod and Taliantis, because these guys are fighting a hammer and tongue against one another as he clips the grass on turn in sideways, and Taliantis is just going to get sideways on the exit. Neither of these drivers are able to keep it on the road right now. They're going to dive their way through to turn number 1. McLeod with a lot more speed, but not able to make a move now. So what he has to do is set himself up out of this corner. He goes for an ultra wide line, probably too wide. That might be too far back now for him to get a move on Taliantis done. So that is not ideal for McLeod. Up the hill, he'll have to pull something extraordinary over the top on the back of the circuit to make this move stick. But we go back to this battle for position number 4, because Stenberg has really, really closed in on McMullen. McMullen not looking as strong as he was, still fuel saving ever so slightly, but he should have enough margin right now to make this work. So we'll turn our attention to Forzen Al-Nabi. He started on pole position. He lost the lead early on with not a great start, but he got it back early on as well. He made a fantastic run. He got the pit stops right, and Forzen Al-Nabi is going to take out round number 3 here at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, very nice job there by Forzan. Wayne Seaburke going to come over for P number 2. Well by him. And Kurt Stenberg's got him over the line. He's run out of fuel. Marlon McMullen has run out of fuel. So there we go. Michael Taliantis is going to come over the line for P number 6. Mitchell McLeod P7. And Jordan Ross picking up a nice points haul there in P8. And, well, evidently he did need to save fuel quite badly, Bo, because... yeah, that's the second time in the last couple of weeks we've seen that happen. Jamie McKnight comes over the line, P number 9. Brian Borg and Braden Bateman having a drag race to the finish, and Braden Bateman's going to lose out there to Brian Borg, who got past him on the final lap. Cooper Webster comes in P12. We've got Will Dodd and Jason Cossey coming over the line as well. But, wow, that was after all that, the great job he did holding off Stenny for all that time. Stenny had the fuel in the bag and was just able to come across. How much did he get him by in the end? Not much.
Yeah, it wasn't too much, but it was about 8-10. So McMullen well and truly ran out of the final corner. He ran out so early, so I still needed a little bit more. But Forzen Al-Nabi did all he needed to do. He comes home position number 1 to take the win ahead of Wayne Seaburke and Luke Harvey, who round out the podium. Stenberg somehow jumped Marlon McMullen across the line, fuel saving not enough for the number 1 car. Taliantis and McLeod fought their way for 6th and 7th. Jordan Ross, Jamie McKnight and Brian Borg round out the top 10.
Yeah, that was really interesting. We've got Braden Bateman, who came in P number 11 just behind Brian on the final lap. Gary Cooper taking out P number 12 with Will Dodd in 13th. Jason Cossey in 14th. Ryan Andrews 15th. David Miller in 16th. David Kinman had an exciting race and came up from 24th to finish in 17th position. Jonathan Ben takes 18th. Zane Payton takes out 19th position. Danny Martin takes out your top 20 position, and he's the first of our cars a lap down. He was followed by Job Stewart, Alvaro Rabanal, Steve Jansen, and the first of our non-finishers, Christian Hinton, Cooper Webster, Brett Loxton, Corey Preston, Thomas Hinz, and Brenton O'Brien, who was caught up early in the race. But that was a really interesting race, but I really like seeing the 2-stop strategy there. Just opened up a little bit more in terms of what we saw and how people were playing things out. And we also saw quite a few overtakes being done during those pit stop sequences as well. So that was really good to see, but I was very surprised to see. I know Marlon was fuel saving, but I really didn't think that he had that little fuel in the end.
Yeah, I'm very, very surprised because in terms of pit stop time, he was only 2/10 shorter than Stenberg, and Stenberg did not look to be fuel saving at all. So I guess it all just comes down to fuel usage per lap. Of course, each driver drives the car a lot differently, different fuel burns, and with such a high acceleration circuit, any slight difference in driving style could mean quite a lot in terms of fuel mileage at the end of 43 long laps. And for McMullen, 1 litre more could have been the difference between him and position number 4. But today it wasn't to be. But perhaps he could get redemption if he's willing to do the Oceanic Endurance Championship, which kicks off on this Sunday at Road America, round number 1. Season 2, the entries are huge for this series, much higher than they were in Season 1. We've got LMP1s, we've got GTEs, we've got a stacked grid, and in case you want even more multi-class racing, later that day, the Major Series, the Sports Car Showdown at the Circuit of the Americas will be kicking off, which will be a fantastic event, the second road course event for the year for the Major Series. Definitely have to look out for that one. But from myself, on behalf of Zach and also Jay in the director's booth, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.